The last time we did a show, they didn't have Christian McCaffrey. So I'd love to know what Croc thinks now that he's officially on the team.
I'm probably not the biggest fan of the trade.
And it's a safe space for us because neither am I.
So I am excited about the player, Christian McCaffrey,
he's
just
good.
the way my mind works. When I see something like this go down, I just look at the whole picture and try to figure out, does this make a lot of sense? Right? You go back to the DeForest Buckner trade and just. You trade DeForest Buckner, that's hella stupid. But then you look at some of the things they're trying to do with it, where it's like, hey, you let him go, you get to bring back Eric Armstead, you get to bring back Jimmy Ward, you get a first-round pick, and that's $20 million off the books, whatever, however you want to look at it. It's like, okay, I can make sense out of it from that standpoint.
It had like financial logic, right? Analytics logic.
They just financial logic.
They just picked the wrong player. Yeah.
But it still was bad. But
it was bad.
I could understand their logic of thinking.
Yes.
When it comes to the Christian McCaffrey trade, my mind goes straight to how much of a difference does Christian McCaffrey make in the sense of bettering this offense more than what you could potentially get from Elijah Mitchell. Right. This team was in the Super Bowl, NFC Championship game with Elijah Mitchell running the ball. Elijah Mitchell runs the ball well. Now, he's hurt right now, and you hope to get him back soon. But I think you can say the same thing about what we've seen from Christian McCaffrey over the last couple of years, where it's like, we just hope he stays healthy. And then when you look at the draft capital that they gave up on top of that, which, again, you could say F those picks, whatever, but on top of the draft capital that you gave up, you also have to pay him. And we're talking about not this year. Yeah, you don't got to pay him anything this year. I think maybe like $600,000. But moving forward, the next 2 years, you're going to pay him $12 million each year. And you pay him $12 million each year, you will lose other players. Unless the cap just goes up so much.
Let's name some players who are not coming back. Jimmy Ward
not coming back.
Not coming back, and he knows it.
This is how the safeties are playing right now. I don't think 49er fans would have as big of a deal. But, yeah, you're losing a good football player and a good typically good. I saw his comments the other day. But typically somebody's really good in the locker room, et cetera. Right. So you're losing Jimmy Ward, potentially Eric Armstead.
Right.
There might be a linebacker.
Ebicom.
Yeah, Ebicam. Yeah. So now you're starting to lose some of these players that, when you piece it together and you look at how they started, when healthy, talking about historically great defense, you're losing some of the stalwarts to that. On top of, I'm pretty sure some players are going to have to make decisions on offensively. And I think that's a lot for a running back that, again, McCaffrey makes the offense better, but also how much better?
How much?
Right? Like if I was to say, all right, I'm going to give Elijah Mitchell these touches, I'm going to give Christian McCaffrey these touches, how much of a difference is it? Maybe 20 yards rushing? Maybe?
I mean, we saw it this past weekend, right? Like Christian McCaffrey was excellent. So was Jeff Wilson Jr. So it didn't really matter which running back you had on the field. It was going to be a good run most of the time.
And that's my part. So in the sense of what you gave up and the financial ramifications that can come from it, to me, it didn't quite make sense. Now, if you just told me, the 49ers traded a 5th-round pick for Christian McCaffrey, you get him in, and, he's only making $5 million a year each of the next 2 years, that was an amazing trade. You got one of the better running backs in the league, and you got him for nothing. And you can you don't have to run him into the ground. You can play him, and you play Jeff Wilson, and they play off of each other. Then you get Elijah Mitchell back. Wow, this makes a ton of sense. But that's not how it worked out. So I think he does make the 49ers better. I'm just curious to see how much as it pertains to what they gave up.
Like what you're describing is kind of like the Emmanuel Sanders trade from 3 years ago. That made sense. He was a rental. They didn't give up a lot. He addressed a position of weakness for them. That's not what this trade is at all. It's not the Emmanuel Sanders trade. And they kind of marketed it that way. Hey, this is the piece we needed. We feel as confident in this team as we felt in that team. But to me, like the Emmanuel Sanders trade is something that Parag would have signed off on. Yep, makes sense. Analytics department, all good. I can't see Parag signing off on this. This is so against the 49ers brand of like value and how they do things the last 15, 20 years. To me, this is Kyle saying, I have the most power in this organization, Parag. I want Christian McCaffrey. We're gonna do this. Because I feel like only a coach would say, I don't care what the value is. I'm going to make this work because I'm the guy drawing up the plays. And it's my offense. Give me what I want.
It was a very, very, very desperate move. And just with how Kyle Shanahan or whoever's picking these running backs, how they valued the position, that has been very odd to me. I said it in the draft. I was live on the draft show, Locked On NFL Draft. We were out there in the studio in Dallas, and they took a picture that floats around the internet sometimes. But if you see a picture of me kind of squinting at the TV, that was me when they drafted Ty Davis Price in the 3rd round. And it just did not make sense to me. Because I'm like, look, you just drafted, and look, Ty Davis Price could very well be a really good running back, but the value did not make sense. Look at what they've done in the past with the more they've put into a running back, the less they've gotten from it, right? You look at what they did with Jerick McKinnon, didn't get much out of it, obviously due to injury. You look at what they gave to Tevin Coleman, and I think people look at Tevin Coleman now and, okay, cheap, but at the time they paid him like $5 million, $6 million a year or something like that. Didn't work out the way they probably thought it would. You look at what they gave him for Trey Sermon, right? 3rd round pick, and you traded up for Trey Sermon. All right.
Joe Williams.
And not just Joe Williams. And people forget this guy, Capri Bibbs. They traded a 4th round pick for Capri Bibbs, who did not even make the team. It was one of the wildest trades. So, but then who have you gotten the most out of? Jeff Wilson, undrafted. Raheem Mostert, who you inherited, but again, undrafted. Matt Breida, undrafted. Elijah Mitchell, 6th round pick. So it's like the more they invest, the more weary I am of the acquisition. But again, Christian McCaffrey, a little bit different, but I hope it works out.
Yeah, and now that Deebo Samuel has a bummed hamstring, we don't know if he's going to play this weekend. I'm guessing he won't. All of a sudden, the Niners are leaning on Christian McCaffrey. They need him to make a big impact that Eric and I are a little skeptical that he can do on his own, given the position he plays.